All right, ambassadors, it is now time for Bible. It's now time for Bible. So right now, I need you to go get your Bible sheet, page 134. I need you to go get your Bible sheet, page 134. Bible sheet, page 134. All right, let's go ahead and get started. It says, your direction says to fill in the circle that correctly completes each sentence. Fill in the circle that correctly completes each sentence. Number one says that Moses and Miriam worship God because he helped the Israelites blank. Again, it says Moses and Miriam worship God because he helped the Israelites blank. Is it cross the Red Sea or is it climb a hill? Think about the Israelites. What did Moses and Miriam worship God for? Because God helped the Israelites to do what? Is it cross the Red Sea or to climb a hill? You should have chose to cross the Red Sea. So let's go ahead and color in that bubble where it says cross the Red Sea. Color in the bubble that says cross the Red Sea. Now under that, it says that I can worship God because he has helped me blank. I want you to make this personal. So I want you to think about some things that God has helped you with and write it on the line. So give me one way or one reason that you can worship God. So I can worship God because he has helped me blank. Finish it out. One reason that Miss Brown can worship God is because he has helped me reach you all on different platforms. Again, I can worship God because he has helped me reach my ambassadors on different platforms. Keep in mind that I want you to make this personal. I want you to think about a reason that you have to worship God. What would be the reason that you are worshiping God right now? What are some things that God may have helped you with? I want you to write that in the blank. All right, now let's look at number two. Number two says that David worshiped God by. David worshiped God by. Is it ignoring his power or giving him thanks? Is it ignoring his power or giving him thanks? How did David worship God? By giving him thanks. So let's go ahead and color in the bubble or shade in the bubble that says giving him thanks. That says giving him thanks. So David worshiped God by giving him thanks. Now it says, I can worship God by doing what? What can you do to worship God? What can you do to worship God? I know I can be just like Daniel. I can worship God by giving him thanks. And maybe some of you can worship God by giving him thanks as well. So you can write by giving him thanks. So I can worship God by giving him thanks. All right, let's look at number 3. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says that Paul and Silas worship God even though they, it says Paul and Silas worship God even though they, was it were afraid to or were in prison? Is it were afraid to or were in prison? Paul and Silas worship God even though they were in prison. Even though they were in prison. Remember, with them worshiping God even though they were in prison, he caused the chains to break off of them while they were in prison. He caused the door to open of the prison. He caused the iron gate to open. So remember that Paul and Silas worship God even though they were in prison. So let's go ahead and color in that bubble that says we're in prison. We're in prison. Now it says that I can worship God even though. I can worship God even though. Think about some things that may have happened or that may be happening right now. That regardless of my situation that is going on around me, that I'm in right now, I can still worship God even though blank. So think about some things. So one thing that I can say is I can worship God even though chaos is breaking out around me. Or even though things are not happening the way that I planned. Or even though the pandemic is going on. Just think about some things that you can worship God even though. Even though. So I can worship God even though we are going through a pandemic. Even though we are going through a pandemic, I can still worship God. I can still worship God. Because as a lot of you all know, we're worshiping God in the comfort of our own home. Even though we were been doing that, but we're really accessing our faith with worshiping God during the comfort or in the comfort of our own home. So I can worship God even though we are going through a pandemic. Because I know that when this pandemic is over, I am coming out even better than I was before we went into the pandemic. So I'm going to worship God even though I'm going through it. All right, I'm going to let you get a couple more seconds to go ahead and wrap your sentence up. All right, let's look at number 4. Let's look at number 4. We're almost at the end. Let's look at number 4. Number 4 says that Abraham listened to and obeyed God by. It says Abraham listened to and obeyed God by. Is it hiding from Pharaoh or going where God told him to go? Is it hiding from Pharaoh or going where God told him to go? Think about what Abraham listened to and obeyed God by. Is it hiding from Pharaoh or going where God told him to go? It would definitely be going where God told him to go, because Abraham and Pharaoh were not even in the same stories in the Bible. So Abraham listened to and obeyed God by going where God told him to go. Remember, God told him to pack up you and your family, for there is a new place for you ahead. So he had to listen to God, leaving everything that he knew in the town where he was and go to the new place that God had prepared for him and his family. So let's go ahead and color in going where God told him to go. Going where God told him to go. Now with the sentence under it, it says, I listen to God by. How do I listen to God? Think about some ways that you listen to God. How do you listen to God? It can be a form of reading his word. It can be a form of listening to a song. It could be a form of when I'm praying, I'm listening to him to hear the answers to my prayers. It can be a form of receiving word from your pastor. It can be a form of receiving word from your parents. What are some ways that you listen to God? How are you listening to God? So one thing that I can say that I am listening to God by reading his word and listening to my pastor. So I can listen to God by reading his word and listening to my pastor. Remember, this is for you. So what are some ways that you are listening to God? Some of you may be reading his word as well, so you can write that. Some of you may be listening to your pastor as well, so you can write that. But think about some ways that you can listen to God, or that you are listening to God. I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of minutes to wrap that up. Now, last but certainly not least, number 5 said that Moses obeyed God when he told him to blank. Moses obeyed God when he told him to blank. Is it to talk to Pharaoh or to talk to the cloud? Was it to talk to Pharaoh or to talk to the cloud? Think about it. Moses obeyed God when he told him to, is it talk to Pharaoh or talk to the cloud? It would be to talk to Pharaoh. Remember, God told Moses to talk to Pharaoh. He told him to talk to Pharaoh. So let's go ahead and color in the bubble that says talk to Pharaoh. Now the sentence is, I can obey God when he tells me to. I can obey God when he tells me to. Think about it. What can you do to obey God when he tells you to do something? What can you do? I can obey God when he tells me to. I'm going to say put my phone down and listen to him. So I'm going to say I can obey God when he tells me to put my phone down and listen to him. I can obey God when he tells me to put my phone down and listen to him. We'll give you a couple seconds to wrap your sentence up. All right, that wraps up all of your Bible for today. So again, for number 1, you should have Moses and Miriam worship God because he helped the Israelites cross the Red Sea. For number 2, you should have David worship God by giving him thanks. For number 3, you should have Paul and Silas worship God even though they were in prison. For number 4, you should have Abraham listen to and obey God by going where God told him to go. And then lastly, for number 5, you should have Moses obey God when he told him to talk to Pharaoh. All right, I hope you all enjoy Bible today, and I look forward to seeing you all in math.